Roth IRAs versus traditional IRAs are the financial advisor debate equivalent of like pepperoni versus sausage, or Chevy versus Ford, or Coke versus Pepsi. It's been going on since the beginning of Roth IRAs in 1998. Today, I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to talk about the differences between the two, and stick around because I'm going to give you a real world example of putting money away into both to see who comes out ahead in the end. To start this thing off, a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA are two sides of the same coin. They're very similar in a lot of ways. They're different in one key way. I always kind of think of them as like yin and yang. And to be honest, when I think of yin and yang, I think of those cookies, right? The like black and white cookie where half is one color and half is the other. And it makes them a little better for me because who doesn't like cookies? At any rate, the traditional IRA, the way that it works, money goes in and you get a tax deduction for it when you contribute. So let's say you make $100,000 a year. The most you can contribute to an IRA, Roth or traditional, this year in 2024 is $7,000. $8,000 if you're over the age of 50. So you can put in $7,000. Let's assume that you do. You make $100,000, you put $7,000 in, you're taxed on $93,000 of income because you put 7 right away. You don't get taxed on that 7. So it's a tax deductible contribution when you put the money into a traditional IRA, provided you're below the income limits and all of the other stuff. Generally speaking, pre-tax money goes into a traditional IRA. It grows tax deferred, so you don't pay taxes while it's growing. You do pay the tax at the end. When you draw money out in retirement, all of it is taxable. The Roth is the opposite of that. Now we're on the other side of the cookie. With the Roth, you don't get a deduction when you put the money in. So let's say that you earn the same $100,000, you put the same $7,000 into an account, but this time you put it into a Roth. You're still taxed on $100,000. So you're literally paying taxes on the $7,000 that you're putting over into the Roth. So it goes over post-tax, after tax. It still grows tax deferred, much like the traditional IRA. So the whole time it's growing, you're not paying taxes. Here's the key difference. You don't pay taxes on the end. When you draw the money out in retirement, it's tax-free because you pay tax upfront on the contribution. Here's the thing. Most people who are getting close to retirement or who are already retired are really traditional money heavy. They're to be taxed heavy. And if you retire and all of your money lives like that, you're essentially guaranteeing that you're going to be like a W-2 employee for the rest of your life. And what I mean when I say that is this: all of that money is to be taxed, and it gets taxed at earned income tax rates. And so as you're drawing money out for the rest of your life, you're continuing to pay taxes on that money because of the benefit you got up front. That's the reason why I like Roths so much. When you retire. Don't pay taxes like an employee anymore. If you pay the tax up front, you can use all of that money for yourself without having to cut in your silent partner, Uncle Sam, when you get to retirement. With the Roth, you're not buying out Uncle Sam at the end. You bought him out at the beginning. You paid him his money when you put the $7,000 in, and so he doesn't have any stake in that Roth IRA. No partner for you. That money is all yours to use in retirement. Hey guys, by the way, if you haven't been here before, I'm Antonio Cibella. I'm a financial advisor. As you could probably tell, I work with people who are 55 plus. They're planning for their retirement, and they understand that everything changes when you get to retirement. If that sounds like you, check out the links in the description. You can sign up for our email list a couple of times a month. I send out timely emails. We do some webinars, other things like that. You get notified through the email list if you sign up there. Or if you have questions about your own situation, you can also check out a link down there to book a little bit of time with me. I'm happy to talk with you and give you some answers to questions you may have about your own retirement. Let me break it down for you a different way. I've talked about this before, but I always think of taxation on retirement accounts in terms of the seed or the harvest. Let's pretend we've got Farmer Bob. Farmer Bob's been a farmer for 1,000 years. He goes into the feed store. Before I get too detailed here, if I mess anything up and you're a farmer, I apologize. I don't know farming. The example will still work, but here's what we're going to talk about. Farmer Bob goes into the feed and seed store and he says, "Hey, I need to buy my seed for the year." And he looks up at the counter and there's a new guy working. Bill, who worked there for 30 years, isn't there anymore now. Jim is there selling the feed. And Jim says, "Oh, Bob, I've heard about you. I know you've been a customer for a long time. I'm going to offer you a special deal. Your seed costs $5,000 today. You don't have to pay me anything today. Don't even worry about it. You go, you plant your seed, you harvest your crop, sell your harvest, and when you do, you just give me 10% of the harvest. Just come back, cut me a check for 10% of whatever you sell for, and we'll call it even. Nothing today." And so Farmer Bob thinks for a second. He goes, "Well, wait a second. It costs me $5,000 today if I want to buy the seed. But after I grow my harvest, I sell it for $100,000. If I got to give this guy 10% of that, that's $10,000. It cost me more, even though it doesn't cost me anything today. And Farmer Bob says, oh, not so fast, Jim. I see what you're doing there, and that's fine, but that's not for me. I pay cash. Here's my $5,000. He takes his seat. He goes on about his way. That's the farmer equivalent of the Roth IRA, right? He bought that guy out at the beginning. He paid for it up front. That's what you can do with a Roth IRA. That's why I like it, because you're paying tax on a smaller amount, not on the harvest, not on what the money grows into in the future. Now I'm going to show you exactly why that's beneficial in real life terms. Let's pull out the trusty IRA planner. Here we go. We're going to make a couple of assumptions. First, we're going to assume that you're 35 years old. I want to illustrate a long time frame here. So we're going to say you're 35 years old. You're making $100,000 a year. You're going to put in the $7,000 that we've talked about, and you're going to do it for 30 years until you're 65 when you retire. Now the planner is going to compare for us 3 different options: a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, or a non-qualified account. We're not talking about the non-qualified account today, so we're going to stick to the traditional and the Roth. We've got to assume a tax rate, 22%, right down the middle if you're at that income level at this point. So we're going to say you're at a 22% federal tax rate, and we're going to make an assumption about your return. We're going to say that you average 8% per year while the money's growing and you're getting to retirement. So here you can see the results. Up at the top, it's going to say how much the program feels that you could draw from the pool of funds over your retirement lifetime. But I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here to show you the after-tax results, the net results. So the traditional, in this case, technically would grow to a larger amount before taxes once you adjust for the tax liability. But at the end, you have more money left over from the Roth. You can see with the Roth, you net out $932,000 of post-tax money, which is a larger amount than the traditional after you've paid taxes on it, because you paid the tax upfront only on the contribution. Think of it in these terms. You've paid tax on $210,000 of contributions. If you put in $7,000 a year for 30 years, that means you put $210 in. It grew to almost $1 million. You're not paying tax on the million, you paid tax on 210. With the traditional, you saved paying tax on $210,000 to turn around and pay tax on $1 million later. It just makes sense to pay tax on the seed, not what the seed grows into, not on the harvest. Now you may be watching the video and you're like, dude, that's great if I were 35 and I had a time machine. If you're over 35 at this point, do not fret. The math still works even on a shorter time frame. And here's the other thing. We only went to retirement to age 65. Even if you were 65 years old and you're watching the video today, you've got 20, 30 years left in retirement where the math would still work for things like Roth conversions. If you're past the point of contributing, if you're no longer earning income, it still works to buy out your silent partner and put some money on the tax-free side of the retirement ledger. If you're looking for more specifics about how Roths work, look no further. I got you. I'm going to put the video right there. That leads to our Roth playlist. We got some real good ones on there, all about how you can use Roths for your own retirement plan.